Welcome back to Straight Facts by Dinar Investor. Good morning, guys. Welcome back. Yesterday, I made comments to you guys saying, hey, be careful. These are single articles talking about dismissing and removing the government. Okay, I even made private comments to some of you asked me that what direction might this go? My comments to you is I said it's all BS and it's going to go nowhere. Okay, now after looking at today's news, they did not even hold a session of Parliament. Okay, no session of Parliament was held. They're not going to remove the government. Let me add more details on that, guys. Many of you put comments saying that they need to get rid of the government, Mahdi's a puppet, and so forth. Let's look at that for a second. The current government's not doing anything wrong. Their hands are tied. There's very little that they can do. They can't launch and implement reconstruction. They can't implement economic reform. They can't give the citizens money from Article 140 or the HCL. Every single one of those items can only be launched and implemented after the rate change. Those are all post-rate change items. So if the government's hands are tied and there's very little they can do, they're forced to look like the evil, wicked, bad person. There's nothing right now that the government can do. Yesterday, in the last video I did titled World News, the first article said that the government is going to give the people money. That's the most at this time that the government can even do is just give money to the people. There's nothing more that the government can do to better the lives and improve the lives of the people, because Iraq by itself is not in charge of the timing of the rate change. External powers are. That's why I stressed to you guys last weekend that all of these demonstrations are background noise, nothing more. There's nothing that the government right now can do for its people other than just give them money, okay? And this will not speed up the timing of the rate change, guys. This is all just background noise. Nothing will happen or change from this. It's just an event that's going to come and go, and the speed or timing of the rate change will move at its standard single speed it's moved at this entire time, just one slow speed. Okay? You guys have a great day.
Abdul Mahdi, we will present a project to give a salary to every family that does not have enough income. The 4th of October, 2019. Prime Minister Adil Abdul Mahdi said he would offer a salary bill to every family that does not have enough income. Today, we are between the choice of the state and the non-state, and we want to build the state, he said in a speech. He stressed that ILIS advocates are not allowed to overcome the people, and we want to serve and work sincerely, pointing out that we have a project we will submit to the Council of Ministers to give salary to every family does not have enough income. We will not promise empty promises or prosthetic solutions. We must restore normal life in the provinces and respect the rule of law, he said, adding that security measures, including bans, are difficult. We believe in a policy of providing housing alternatives before lifting abuses, and we started distributing residential land, he said, stressing that the escalation in the demonstration is leading to loss of life. He pointed out that the victims in the demonstrations of the security forces and demonstrators martyrs have rights in accordance with the laws in force, and called Parliament to give the Council of Ministers the power to complete the ministerial lineup. Sistani calls on the Iraqi government to take clear and practical steps towards reform. The 4th of October, 2019. Iraq's top Shiite cleric Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani warned on Friday of serious repercussions of violence and counter-violence, referring to clashes in some areas between demonstrators and security forces that fired live bullets and tear gas. He condemned the attacks on peaceful demonstrators and security forces, and warned of serious repercussions in the event of violence against protesters. The Iraqi police sources, in addition to medical sources, reported on Friday the death toll of demonstrations in Iraq to 44 and hundreds of wounded. According to Reuters news agency reported, the sources added that the highest number of deaths occurred in the southern city of Nasiriyah, where 18 died, while 16 were killed in the capital Baghdad. Sistani stressed in a statement Friday sermon on the need to fight corruption, saying, "The judiciary did not do its duty to fight corruption." He called for the Iraqi government to take clear and practical steps towards reform. He also called on the Iraqi government to provide employment opportunities for citizens. Russia is betting on China and gold. The 2nd of October, 2019. The share of yuan-denominated assets rose to 14.2% of Russia's international reserves, which recently reached $532 billion, according to data from the Russian Central Bank for the end of March. The data indicates that Russian investment in Chinese assets increased by 8.7% this year, accompanied by the growth of the yen's share in Russia's international reserves from 1.7% to 10.2%. Meanwhile, the dollar's share of Russia's reserves fell from 43.7% in April 2018 to just 23.6%. Over the past 2 years, Russia has tended to reduce the dollar's share of its international reserves, due to Washington's sanctions policy. The share of gold in reserves approached the 20% equivalent to about $109.5 billion. Last year, Russia topped the list of gold buyers in the world, buying 274.3 tons of gold. Russian central bank cuts the dollar in reserves. The 2nd of October, 2019. The Russian central bank has reduced the dollar reserve ratio in Russia's international reserves by about 2 times, up to 23.6% by March 31st, while raising the level of reserves in other currencies, such as the euro and the yuan. According to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Russia on the management of shares in foreign currencies and gold published today, that the level of reserves in euros rose by the end of March by 30.3% compared with the same period last year, and the proportion of gold, from 17.2% to 18.2%, and the yuan rate from 5% up to 14.2%. Russia's international reserves, gold and foreign exchange, represent highly liquid foreign assets held by the central bank and the Russian government. Reserves consist of cash gold, special drawing rights, reserves in the IMF and foreign exchange, other reserve assets. Foreign banks join Russian SWIFT. The 4th of October, 2019. According to Mehr news agency quoted Sputnik, Ayla Bakina, director of payment systems the National Bank of Russia, said 8 foreign bank taxation system SPIFS were connected to 3 of these connections are fully operational and 5 other banks in technical preparations are now needed. Following the Ukraine crisis of 2009, when Western countries attempted to block Russia's access to the SWIFT payment system, Russia created its own payment network, called the Financial Message Transfer System, or SPFS. Speaking at the Banking and Retail Summit in Moscow, Bakina said, "We have created the opportunity for foreign banks and financial institutions to connect to the SPF system. Today, the system has about 5 users, including 3 foreign banks. The foreign banks are already users of the system and are fully operational, while another 9 are undergoing technical steps to connect to the network." He explained these banks are from the Eurasian Economic Union. The SPFS network now accounts for 5% of SWIFT's traffic within Russia, while in year 2 it was 2% to 4%. Last month, Yuri Oshakov, an aide to the Russian president, said Iran was a Russian partner and the 2 countries were trying to connect Russian SPFS to the Iranian alternative to SWIFT. Foreign banks join Russian SWIFT. The 4th of October, 2019. According to Mehr news agency quoted Sputnik, Ayla Bakina, director of payment systems the National Bank of Russia, said 8 foreign bank taxation system SPIFS were connected to 3 of these connections are fully operational and 5 other banks in technical preparations are now needed. Following the Ukraine crisis of 2009, when Western countries attempted to block Russia's access to the SWIFT payment system, Russia created its own payment network, called the Financial Message Transfer System, or SPFS. Speaking at the Banking and Retail Summit in Moscow, Bakina said, "We have created the opportunity for foreign banks and financial institutions to connect to the SPF system. Today, the system has about 5 users, including 3 foreign banks. The foreign banks are already users of the system and are fully operational, while another 9 are undergoing technical steps to connect to the network." He explained these banks are from the Eurasian Economic Union. The SPFS network now accounts for 5% of SWIFT's traffic within Russia, while in year 2 it was 2% to 4%. Last month, Yuri Oshakov, an aide to the Russian president, said Iran was a Russian partner and the 2 countries were trying to connect Russian SPFS to the Iranian alternative to SWIFT. Refinitiv launches FX and money market awareness program with Central Bank of Iraq. As part of the collaboration with the CBI, Refinitiv organized a specialized workshop hosting 19 Iraqi banks in Beirut, Lebanon. The 1st of October, 2019 press release. In partnership with the Central Bank of Iraq, CBI, Refinitiv is rolling out an awareness program to promote FX global best practices in Iraq. As part of the collaboration with the CBI, Refinitiv organized a specialized workshop hosting 19 Iraqi banks in Beirut, Lebanon. The workshop covered a wide variety of FX themes aimed at enhancing the practice, upgrading the technology tools, and cementing interbank collaboration within the Iraqi financial and banking community. It is crucial we implement global practices as we move to a more regulated FX and money market, trading in Iraq. Our partnership with Refinitiv will raise the quality of our interbank collaboration and allows the key banks to explore a new spectrum of technology tools used by FX and traders globally. We look forward to rolling out more awareness sessions aimed at educating the Iraqi banking community on the latest trading conventions and tools. Dr. Mahmoud Daggar, General Director, Central Bank of Iraq. We are proud to be part of the CBI's vision to develop a sound Iraqi interbank community in today's evolving FX markets. Banks need flexible trading platforms and tools that provide control over electronic pricing, distribution and hedging to meet the growing demands of their client base and improve internal efficiency through automation, Nadim Najjar, Managing Director, Middle East and Africa, Refinitiv, said. Our collaboration with CBO is the result of extensive research, preparation and coordination which will benefit the Iraqi banking community, Najjar concluded. Refinitiv offers the world's leading independent source of trusted FX market insight into bank and dealer-to-client electronic trading venues, workflow management, and post-trade and regulatory support for both sell and buy side market participants. About Refinitiv. Refinitiv is one of the world's largest providers of financial markets data and infrastructure, serving over 40,000 institutions in over 190 countries. It provides leading data and insights, trading platforms, and open data and technology platforms that connect a thriving global financial markets community, driving performance in trading, investment, wealth management, regulatory compliance, market data management, enterprise risk and fighting financial crime. KRG to dispatch delegation to Baghdad for budget, census talks. The 2nd of October, 2019. A high-level delegation from the Kurdistan Regional Government, KRG, will visit Baghdad next Tuesday, KRG envoy in the Iraqi capital said. Speaking to BAS News, Faris Sizer said the delegation will meet with the Iraqi counterparts to discuss urban concerns over 2020's budget bill and the planned nationwide census. The delegation will include Omid Sabar, head of Divanat KRG's Council of Ministers, Khalid Shwani, Minister of State, and Dara Rashid, Minister of Planning. Kuwait calls on its citizens not to travel to Iraq. An official source in the Kuwaiti Foreign Ministry called on Kuwaiti citizens who intend to travel to Iraq to wait and not travel for the time being as a result of the unrest and demonstrations in a number of Iraqi cities. The source called on citizens who are currently there to leave as soon as possible and to take the utmost care and to stay away from gatherings and demonstrations and follow the instructions of the local authorities so that the date of departure is possible. In the past, Iran and Bahrain have called on their citizens not to go to Iraq, especially those who seek religious shrines to revive the 40th anniversary of Imam Hussein on April 20th. Not to travel to Iraq. The 4th of October, 2019. The Qatari Foreign Ministry urged its citizens not to travel to Iraq on Friday against the backdrop of an escalation of demonstrations and protest movement that caused deaths and injuries. Previously, Turkey has called on Iran, Bahrain and Kuwait to stop traveling to Iraq, especially those who seek religious shrines to revive the 40th anniversary of Imam Hussein on April 20th. Video, death toll rises to 20 as unrest spreads. The 4th of October, 2019. The death toll from 3 days of mass anti-government protests in Iraq has risen to 20, with hundreds more wounded as authorities imposed curfew in several cities and cut internet access across much of the country to quell unrest. The protests, which began in capital Baghdad on Tuesday, are mostly spontaneous and without political leadership, staged by disenchanted youth demanding jobs, improved services, such as electricity and water, and an end to Iraq's endemic corruption. The demonstrations have since spread to cities across the mainly Shia south, making it the most serious challenge to Prime Minister Adil Abdul Mahdi's year-old government. Al Jazeera's Osama bin Javed has the latest, in English video link. Death toll in Iraqi protests rises to 35 as protesters break curfew. The 4th of October, 2019. The death toll in 3 days of protests has risen to 35 and more than 1,000 wounded. Demonstrators defied the curfew, which took effect in the Iraqi capital Baghdad at dawn on Thursday, coinciding with the decision to form a committee to deal with the demands of the demonstrators. On Tuesday, Iraq witnessed the launch of a protest movement demanding the departure of the corrupt and securing job opportunities for young people, which now extended to most southern cities. Iraqi security forces again fired live ammunition on Thursday to disperse demonstrators gathered in central Baghdad despite a curfew that went into effect at dawn. This new day is a real test for the government of Adil Abdul Mahdi, which at the end of this month completes its first year in power. Since Tuesday, social discontent between resentment of corruption, unemployment and lack of public services has spread to cities in the south of the country. To date, this movement seems to be spontaneous. No political or religious party or leader has expressed support for it, in what is considered a precedent in Iraq. Riot police fired live bullets into the air to disperse dozens of demonstrators who lit tires in Terrace Square and repelled the protesters towards sub-streets adjacent to the main gathering place. Terrace Square is a traditional starting point for demonstrations in Baghdad, separated from the green zone by the Al-Jumhuriyah Bridge, where security forces have been tightened since Tuesday. The curfew is causing a crisis in Baghdad markets. The 4th of October, 2019. The curfew announced by Prime Minister Adil Abdul Mahdi in Baghdad caused a crisis in the food markets in the capital. Witnesses said that the fruit and vegetable markets appeared to be devoid of material because of banditry and the prevention of movement between one area to another, causing the closure of the main capital in the capital and the inability of vendors to obtain the materials. At the same time, filling stations witnessed a sharp congestion in the preparation of cars, while the prices of cooking gas bottles to the higher limits that the Iraqi family is unable to provide. Observers warn that the aggravation of this situation will increase public anger and escalate the pace of demonstrations rather than control, with increasing complaint about the actions of the government. Dozens of the Iraqi community in Germany are demonstrating and chanting the overthrow of the regime. The 4th of October, 2019. Dozens of members of the Iraqi community in Germany on Friday staged demonstrations in the city of Berlin in support of protests in the capital Baghdad and a number of central and southern provinces. The people want to overthrow the regime. Iran is his righteousness, and Mansoura, Baghdad, they chanted. The protesters chanted slogans against the parties in power, stressing the need for the European Union and the United Nations to support the protests in Iraq. The demonstrators demanded Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi to resign. Sweden witnessed similar demonstrations by the Iraqi community yesterday afternoon.